What's up, guys? This is TheKephas.
I have two little boys, and one of my favorite things about having two little kids running around the house all the time is just watching them be human. Not improved humans or optimized humans or socially adjusted humans, just, human. They are completely authentic, totally uncapped. They feel what they feel and they show it. Sometimes too much, sure. They melt down, they cry, they laugh way too hard at things that really aren't that funny, but what you're seeing is a person who hasn't learned to perform yet. And that's actually a rare thing, especially these days, because I know what's coming for them. They're going to grow up. They're going to learn social rules. They're going to learn what's acceptable and what's not, what gets you laughed at and what gets you ignored, what makes you fit in and what makes you stand out in the wrong way. They're going to go through what I went through, what most of us have gone through. When you're a kid, you like things openly. You don't hedge it. You don't downplay it. You don't pretend you're only into something ironically. When I was a kid, I loved Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, video games. I was a nerd, and I didn't know that was supposed to be a problem yet. And for a while, it wasn't. Every now and then, someone thought it was dumb, but mostly nobody cared until middle school and then high school. Something shifts around that time. All of a sudden, liking things too much becomes dangerous. Showing excitement becomes embarrassing. Caring openly becomes a liability. You learn very quickly that the safest way to exist is to pretend you don't really care about anything that much. Because the moment you genuinely like something, especially something that isn't considered cool, you get labeled geek, nerd, cringe, weird. And people like to say that goes away when you get older, but it doesn't. It just gets more subtle. What happens instead is that we learn how to cap ourselves. We learn how to perform. We learn how to present a version of ourselves that feels safer, smoother, and less rejectable. And eventually, life becomes a performance. Who you are in public becomes a template, a filtered version, sometimes just a fraction of what you really are, and sometimes a complete distortion of it. And you don't even always notice it happening. You just know that being yourself feels risky. So you hedge, you joke, you detach, you keep things at arm's length. And that's where ironic detachment comes in. It's one of the most common social defense mechanisms right now. If I don't take anything seriously, then you can't hurt me for caring. If I make fun of it first, then you can't make fun of me. If I stay detached, then rejection doesn't land as hard. So we live half a step away from ourselves. We perform taste, we perform opinions, intelligence, confidence. And if we're really being honest, a lot of the time we perform superiority because it feels safer to make someone else look stupid than to risk being seen as sincere. You see this everywhere. You see it in how people talk online, forums, comment sections, social media. Everyone trying to sound like the smartest person in the room. Everyone rushing to the easiest polarized take because nuance is lonely. It's easier to join a crowd than to stand in the middle and think out loud. You see it in politics, which has become almost entirely performance. People reciting positions, slogans, identities, very little curiosity, and very little listening, mostly signaling. You see it in gaming culture too. There's this strange trend where hating things feels safer than liking them. If you genuinely enjoy a game, you're naive. If you're excited, you're cringe. If you say something is good without a dozen caveats, you must be dumb, or you're a shill. So instead, people posture, they complain performatively, they nitpick, and signal that they're above it all. It's the kind of thing you see in a lot of MCU movies where they refuse to take themselves seriously. There were constant jokes, constant winks at the audience, and sarcasm layered on sarcasm. And sure, it was charming at first, but over time it got kind of grating, at least to me. I mean, heaven forbid we actually care about a superhero movie. That would be embarrassing. But when you're exposed to it enough, irony starts to become exhausting. Living at a distance from meaning eventually wears you down. And I think a lot of us are feeling that now. We're tired of everything being a bit, being a performance, and pretending we don't care. And what's telling is who people are actually drawn to. The people we tend to respect, admire, or stick around for are usually the ones who don't play this game. They're not constantly hedging or trying to look clever or afraid to take something seriously. They're just grounded. And you see this even in creative spaces. When a game fully embraces what it is instead of apologizing for it, people respond to that. When Sven from Larian comes out wearing literal armor and says, "Yeah, this is what we made and we believe in it," that resonates with people. When a game like Clair Obscur is honest about its influences and tone instead of hiding behind irony, people feel it. Authenticity cuts through noise, not because it's loud, but because it's rare. Now, this is where people often misunderstand what authenticity actually is. Being authentic doesn't mean saying everything you think. It doesn't mean ignoring social context or trampling boundaries or being brutally honest as an excuse to be careless. Authenticity isn't impulse, it's integrity. It's the alignment between who you are internally and how you move through the world. You can respect other people's boundaries without erasing yourself. If someone doesn't want to talk about politics, you don't force it. That's basic respect. But you also don't pretend to believe something you don't just to keep the peace. You don't shrink yourself into someone else's expectations, and yeah, that comes at a cost. If you're authentic, you will be rejected. That's unavoidable. But the trade-off is this: when you are accepted, it's real. You're not being liked for a mask. You're not being loved for a performance. You're being seen. And that's something performative living can never give you. Because if you're always acting, no one ever actually meets you. And here's the uncomfortable part: most people can feel this. We're actually really good at detecting facades. We can sense when someone is off, when someone is playing a role, and when something feels hollow. That's why so many interactions feel draining now. That's why people say they don't like anyone anymore. And that's why everything feels so paper thin. When performance becomes the norm, authenticity feels like a relief. And this isn't just a cultural issue, it's personal. I grew up in church environments where performance was everywhere. Big talk and big language, public displays of virtue, saying all the right things, and often very little alignment with how people actually lived. Jesus talked about this directly, about people honoring God with their lips while their hearts were far away. That's not about rule breaking, it's about inauthenticity. And the irony is that religious spaces often tell you not to be yourself, but to become someone else, to be more holy. And what that often produces isn't transformation like it's supposed to. It produces performance. You learn how to look spiritual, how to talk spiritual, and how to hide parts of yourself that don't fit the image. It's just another mask. And the thing is, if you believe in God at all, then you already know you're seen completely. There's no hiding anyway. So performance becomes pointless. What actually matters is integrity, becoming someone you can stand behind. And that's an important distinction. Being authentic doesn't mean staying exactly as you are forever. If you don't like the person you are, change, grow, learn, become better. But do it honestly. Don't wear a mask and call it maturity. Don't perform growth instead of doing it. And don't pretend to be someone you aren't and hope it turns into reality. Authenticity is choosing to live on your own terms, even when it's uncomfortable. It's choosing meaning over approval, depth over safety, and reality over performance. And I think a lot of us are reaching a breaking point with the opposite. Maybe it's age, maybe it's exhaustion, maybe it's just cultural saturation. But I know for me, I've lost my tolerance for inauthenticity. I don't want everything to be ironic or to be performative, and I certainly don't want to live half step away from my own life. I want things that feel real, people who mean what they say, and conversations that aren't a competition. And I think a lot of people quietly want the same thing. So when you hear the phrase "be authentic," don't treat it like some kind of a slogan. When you hear it, think of this. Stop living like you're constantly being watched by an imaginary jury. Stop shaping yourself around what you think will be accepted. Let some people not like you. That's totally fine. Because the alternative is living in a prison of your own performance, where nothing ever feels fully yours. And that's an awful heavy price to pay just to avoid being called cringe.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.